Hi, I'm Chef Lynn, and today we're standing in the middle of a very hot heirloom tomato field in the middle of Livonia, Michigan. With me today is Louie, fast becoming known as Heirloom Louie. And Louie knows everything there is to know about tomatoes. Trust me on this one, I've talked to him about it a lot. But for this purpose, Louie, let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
What is an heirloom tomato?
An heirloom tomato. First of all, welcome to my garden, everyone. An heirloom tomato, think back with your grandmother or grandfather, you know, centuries and centuries ago, whatever, generation after generation. Things are passed down. That's where the heirlooms come in. They're passed down from generation to generation. But the science part of it is they're open pollinated seeds. And that's why we have 1,600 different varieties of heirlooms. So
in other words, they're not genetically enhanced at all.
No,
they're just natural tomatoes that grow
right. And
in the open, and they pollinate themselves.
Absolutely. So that's how you got 1,600 different varieties. And I've been in the heirlooms now only 3 years, but gardening since I was in the 2nd grade.
So what prompted you to begin heirlooms? Why did you choose that?
For one, I heard about them, I saw pictures of them, I read about the flavors and everything like this, and I couldn't find any in Michigan. So I looked around, I find a reputable seed company out in Carmel, California, and they hooked me up. So I ordered these different things that were a strong variety with rich flavors that I have here now. I've been doing this for 3 years. I added a couple extra ones, but the taste compared to another tomato, I'd always loved tomatoes, no matter what, the red ones, whatever we had. But once I tasted these tomatoes, and my father told me these are the best tomatoes he ever had, that inspired me to go on because he'll tell me the truth on that. So I kept going on it.
But your interest in tomatoes goes way, way back, right?
Well, yeah. Actually, in 1964, when we moved to Livonia, my dad took me, my brother, and my sister out to Jackson, where you would pick and pay. All right, so we picked and paid. I'll never forget it because I'd sit out in the garage with a salt shaker and just, I mean, I'm talking a big basket of tomatoes. And then that just put me like in Louie La La Land. I love tomatoes.
Louie La La Land.
I loved it ever since. So.
Great, but I think it goes back even further, right? When you were little, didn't you sneak into your neighbor's tomato field?
This is true, but first, when my father took me there, this whole neighborhood, this whole street here was all farmland. All the neighbors had farms. So as kids, we got into mischief, this and that, but we're going to 2nd grade right now, so we used to raid gardens. We used to go in gardens, sit there with our Cub Scout knife and a salt shaker, eat tomatoes, eat the cucumbers, eat onions. But
that's
for
pretty
some
cool
reason,
in 2nd grade to take the salt shaker with you.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's a must. But this whole neighborhood 40 years ago, 45 years ago, was all woods and all farmland back here. And I was raised right behind us since 1964, and this is where my garden is.
Did your neighbors mind that you did that?
Well, they used to chase us off. They never caught us. Run through the cornfields, we ran.
Okay.
You know, legs don't fail me now.
So your field here is totally organic, is that right?
Yes, it is.
So what does that mean to be organic?
Okay, well, organic, you're talking with animal, vegetable, fertilizers, bone meal, compost. You mix all these together, those are organic. But I took it a notch higher and I added some sphagnum peat moss to it. And it's what that does is it holds the nutrients, it gives nutrients, and as you add nutrients and you water it, and the sphagnum peat moss is down below in the root system, it holds it there longer. So they have a strong root system, and that's what you want. If you don't have a strong root system, you're gonna get no harvest, no yield. And the thing is that people don't understand, they're so anxious to plant like on Memorial Day. But the bottom line is, be a little patient. The ground should be 70 degrees. That's when you should plant tomatoes. It'll give it a better and stronger root system. And if you're more patient, wait till 75 degrees. I couldn't wait no longer. I did it at 73 because I didn't get my garden until like the 10th of June. And that's late because of all the storms we had, the rain. I mean, I almost gave up on the garden when the big rain we had 2 months ago knocked everything down.
So what other special kind of things do you do in this field? For example, I see there's not a weed in sight. I can't believe it. It's the most pristine tomato garden I've ever seen.
Well, I don't like weeds, for one, but the truth of the matter is it's taking all the nutrients away. It's taking it away from there.
Okay.
And that's what I don't want. I want the plants to have as much nutrients as they could get.
So I know you work from morning till night here.
Yes.
I know you love your tomatoes.
I do. I do.
Listen to you talk about them for quite a long time. Okay. So how do you keep the critters out? I remember when I lived in Grosse Pointe, I tried to grow some tomatoes in my backyard, and we had raccoons. And the raccoons would come and literally stick their little nails into a tomato and chomp out a bite, stop, go to the next tomato. And so, you know, I thought, well, what do I do? Do I leave a plate of tomatoes out so they just eat those? But they weren't too interested in that. So how do you keep the critters out?
Well, everyone's got to eat, so every blind chicken deserves a kernel of corn once in a while, you know, so let them in. That's all.
Okay. Well, what other special things do you do in this garden? Like when let's say I'm ready to, I just don't know when to pick my tomato. How do I know when it's ripe?
Okay. I'm going to show you something here. Like you'll see some green on the shoulders here. In about 2 more days, this will be ready. This is where I like to pick it. So you feel it almost feels like an al dente piece of pasta. Mm-hmm. Now, if it gets too soft, then you make sauces out of it. But when you want to do Greek-style tomato salads or Capreses, you want them to be sort of al dente. So you got to feel them, and you can tell by the color. Like I lost a lot of green ones. A lot of green ones, just regular green ones, would fall off, and I would put them on the side, and my dad would put them on the side and let the sun hit it. In a few days, they would come back. Mm-hmm. You know, so that was really, it's not like you're wasting it.
So what's all the to-do about vine ripening? I thought that if something was vine ripened, you wanted to wait until it was fully colored.
Well, you know, I really never understood that. When I see the vine ripe tomatoes in the stores, I still don't understand it. See, because when I go to restaurants and country clubs, mm-hmm. they order 100 pounds from me, and they're not going to eat 100 pounds like in 1 or 2 days. I want to give it some shelf life. Mm-hmm. So the order's on Monday. By Friday, they're ready. The ones that I just showed you, something like this. Mm-hmm. And
so when you pick your tomatoes, do you just go up and pull it off the vine?
No,
or?
no, you can't do that. See, other tomatoes, the regular tomatoes, you can, but the vines are so strong. I mean, I don't leave home without this. These are my shears, and I reach in and I grab the tomato, and you got to be careful because you don't want to poke it.
You never know when you're going to run into a tomato.
Yeah, and like right now, I'm getting in the next 2 or 3 days. It's going to be a full harvest. Everything's going to really come out strong. Mm-hmm. And so you want to be careful not to puncture the tomatoes because you'll bruise it. If you do, if I bruise them, I've done it before, I'd say, Chef, I bruised this, you want to use this today. Because by the next day, you'll have a nice bruise on. See, heirlooms are very tender. They're very, they're mellow tomatoes. You got to handle them with white glove treatment. That's the bottom line.
Well, tell me about these specific tomatoes. What are they and what's special about them?
Okay, let's start with the Kellogg Breakfast. Now, a lot of these tomatoes are ugly, to tell you about this. So that's why you see things of this nature, but it's all hard.
What's the reason for that, Louie?
It just cracks. Heirlooms do that.
Right.
They grow in different ways. Sometimes they bubble up.
Remember, they're not genetically altered to be perfect or
right.
to be a certain
No.
color.
No, they're not.
What you see is what you get. Here.
Right. But
there's nothing wrong with that. You just cut around it.
You cut around it. But don't judge a book by its cover.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But Kellogg Breakfast, it's a very meaty, it's really low in acidity, and very few seeds. I love them very much, and the older generation that can't have the acidity really love this tomato. And someone that loves tomatoes and has problems with seeds, they can't have seeds, mm-hmm. you might get 4 or 5 seeds in there. That's mm-hmm. it, pluck them out. And that person that cannot have things with seeds can enjoy a Kellogg Breakfast.
That's actually one of my very, very favorite ones.
Yeah, this is one of mine. This is about 1.5 pounds right here.
It's really sweet tasting. You could almost make a whole salad with that one. Or this one would be really great for making a regular Caprese where you wanted to have nice big slices on your plate.
Yeah, chef's choice, whatever.
Okay, how about that next one?
Now, this one is called the brandy wine. It's like the king or queen of tomatoes, heirloom tomatoes. What this has is a really old style, deep, rich tomato flavor, a very deep flavor. And that's how I could do it. It's not as sweet as the other ones. All the other ones I hear are got a lot of sweet and fruit to it.
You know,
but this is more meaty.
We're so used to eating genetically engineered tomatoes, especially in the wintertime,
yeah.
that you feel like all tomatoes, or you forget that all tomatoes don't taste alike.
They don't.
Each one of these has such a different taste. It's really amazing. You have to try them.
It is.
How about that next one?
Now this one's a big rainbow. It's slight sweetness and slight fruity. It's pretty meaty, and it's low in acid too. Not as low in acidity as a Kellogg Breakfast, but it's a beautiful tomato, a beautiful fruit.
Speaking of favorites, that's another one of my absolute favorites because of its
Great
color.
presentation too it gives.
You'll have to cut that one before we're finished because it has colors that run through it just like a rainbow, hence the name.
That's why they call it the big rainbow.
Yeah, okay.
Now this one is really cool. It's called the Black Prince. The seeds I got for this came out of Siberia. And the reason why the Russians, what they're doing with this tomato right now, in the last couple of years, is they're extracting the tomato oil out of it for health reasons. For instance, to help prevent prostate cancer, and also used during the treatment for prostate cancer. And this is extremely sweet. To me, it's really got a peppery flavor.
Me too.
But
are those readily available? Because I don't see them in the stores very often.
You know, I really don't know. I haven't seen. I've seen a couple heirloom tomatoes, but
what would be your ratio in this field, for example, of these different tomatoes? I mean,
I'd say,
is there one that people like the most, that you plant the most of?
You know, actually, they like them all. But I'd have to say, I've gotten more compliments from the people, the older generation that loves tomatoes while they're alive. I got more compliments on the Kellogg breakfast than anything else.
They're really special. Yeah. Okay, so we've gotten to this one, the zebra.
Okay, this is really cool. The green zebra's got the green stripes on it, like a zebra. This, if you had it on a salad, you know, any way you want to do it, the green zebra's got a really zangy, zesty taste to it.
Zangy zebra.
Yeah,
like
it is. It really brings, it'll open up your mouth when you hit a salad, and it's a really nice one to know.
Okay.
Now this is the dagma. It looks almost like a lemon color, and this has tropical fruits. I can't say it tastes like a pineapple, but it tastes really light in tomato taste, and I think you could taste a little bit of cantaloupe and honeydew in there, and that's what I get out of that.
Okay.
And let's see, the last one here is called the Hughes. This comes from the Midwest. Out in the Midwest is where the Hughes comes from, and that's just full of summer sweetness. See, tomatoes are usually sweet and meaty, a lot of them,
okay. And
except a couple.
For people who want to grow their tomatoes at home, you had some tips here, things that help you?
You know, for the last 3 years, I got Rodale's Organic Gardening Encyclopedia, and this has guided me through a lot of questions I wanted to ask. It taught me some serious things as far as my cages go, everything from the compost I make, the compost tea I make. Maybe we'll get into that a little bit later.
That reminds me of a question that I had, and that's that you have all your tomatoes caged, and they just look gorgeous, and they're all tall, and the tomatoes are hanging. And I was in a tomato garden the other day where they were all laying on the ground. So why do you need to have the
these
cages?
right here, this is a 10-gauge concrete reinforcement, and it's held up by a steel post. The thing is why, when these are indeterminate plants, they're not determined. Indeterminate, they could grow. If you look back here, they're 7 feet tall. In the middle of September, this is going to be like a rainforest. I mean, a total rainforest. I have so much fun walking through here. Nobody can see you. You can do whatever you want. And but the plants, they get so heavy in fruit. Like some of my fruits, like the Kellogg breakfast, can get as much as 2 pounds.
It's hard for me to imagine that could even stay on the vine. They all seem to be low.
Well, that's why.
They'll grow higher later.
I always carry this with me, my tomato tape. So it's what I do is I'll tie up a heavy branch to the cage because you don't want to stress the plant out that way. That'll put the stress on it. The leaves will come down, and the vitamins aren't going up. So you got to let them raise to the sky.
Okay.
The only way I stress out a plant, I mentioned to you before, is 2 weeks before you harvest. Let's say today I put my nutrients down, I'll give it a good water, and that's it. No more nutrients, and then in maybe 2.5 weeks it'll come up, and no more water, because tomatoes absorb water like a sponge. And the more water you give it, the bigger they get, and you're gonna lose the flavor. It'll taste like water, like I taste in the stores. It just makes a sandwich wet. So like you do cooking, you do a reduction. You're making a sauce, you cook it down. So it's what's happening with me not watering it, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and now I say, wow. And that's why these tomatoes are rich in flavor. So that's a good way to stress out a plant. But the bad way is, you know, you want to tie them up. And it's a lot of work. And when that big storm came in, my whole garden was down. And my dad, I was ready to give up. But my dad and Steve Lally, Steve Lally said, no, you're not. And so
and look,
I did
you
it.
saved it all.
I saved it.
Absolutely, totally gorgeous.
Thank God for that.
And then you had two other things here that were
Yes.
helpful to you?
These are magazines also called Grit. It's a bi-monthly magazine. They come out bi-monthly, and they come out with all different kinds of things, but new things about tomatoes. And one of my favorite magazines is a Mother Earth News. They can show you how to build greenhouses. They can teach other things about compost. There's always something new in gardening. Like years and years ago, there was only 40 vineyards in Napa Valley. Now there's 400. So because people are knowing, they're moving on
Now
different
we even
flavors.
have tomato fields in Livonia.
Yeah, we have tomato fields forever.
Right.
You know.
Okay, that's great. You've got some really cool ideas about what to do with these heirlooms. Let's get some more people out here, take a little break, and we'll talk about how to use these great tomatoes. See you in a second.
Finding the right drug and alcohol rehab is the only solution for a person trapped by the torture of addiction. Finding the right rehab is the only way to truly end the misery felt by family and friends who suffer too. Just go to findrehabnow.com and fill out our simple online form. A counselor will then contact you with our free personalized treatment matching service, which identifies the right drug and alcohol rehab you need to begin a new life.
So we're back in this outdoor hothouse in Livonia, Michigan, and we have, once again, Louie Halatsis. It's kind of hard to say those Greek names.
Close enough.
Heirloom Louie, as he's becoming known as. We also have Steve Lely of Lely's Restaurant, Lely's on the Green in Farmington Hills. And then we have a very special guest who we just kind of pulled on at the last minute. This guy is Don Coleman, and he's one of the neighbors here. And you can't miss this hat. It says, "Old Dude Made of Achy Breaky Parts." And, of course, the U.S. flag.
Yes.
So, Don, tell us how you know Louie.
Well, we moved out here 48 years ago, and it was a forest. And Louie used to sneak over at the house, plus other people in the neighborhood, with his salt shaker and his Boy Scout knife, and he'd go in the garden and take the tomatoes and the cucumbers and stuff. And if I come running out, he'd head for the forest, and away they'd go. And that happened a number of times, but at least he was fed real well.
But here you are, still together after all these years. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so Steve, you have these tomatoes, Louie's tomatoes at Lely's Restaurant. How come?
Well, these tomatoes are phenomenal. I mean, once I've tried these tomatoes, I had to have them at the restaurant. I just had to have them. They're such a beautiful presentation. They have a wonderful flavor. And when I did bring them to the restaurant, the customers loved them. I mean, I couldn't keep them in long enough. They would just take them right out and it would be gone. There's different styles of doing a Caprese salad. There's a Greek way of doing a Caprese salad, Italian crazy Caprese salad.
Okay, so are both of these salads that you serve at Lely's?
Yes.
Okay. What's in this one? This one they call the Crazy Caprese. I love the name of it. Why do you call it Crazy Caprese?
Well, because there's so many, and it's all diced up, and it's just a bunch of just beautifulness in there, and it's just crazy. You know, it's just a crazy Caprese, and the flavor is phenomenal.
So it has all of the common components of a Caprese salad, but they call it crazy because it's got all of these different kinds of heirloom tomatoes in it. I can't wait to taste it. It looks fabulous. And how about this one? Louie, do you want to tell us what's in this one?
Yeah, that's a Greek style, you know, with all the same tomatoes. We can add a lot of different things to it, a little oregano, a little sea salt. Extra virgin olive oil is a must with the Greeks. And some nice feta cheese that's been soaking in a nice brine. It's unbelievable. I don't know. I've been raised on it, and I love it so much, and I hope our patrons do too.
So these are two awesome salads you can try at Lely's, and I know Louie puts fresh herbs in all of these salads because they're right behind me. We've got some gorgeous parsley here, some rosemary, and some wonderful basil. So I noticed too you've got the basil on the Crazy Caprese, which is traditional there, but you've got parsley on the Mediterranean salad, which is traditional there. You wouldn't put basil in this sort of salad. No. So show us some of those tomatoes inside.
Okay.
Of course, out comes the pocket knife.
Yeah, this is
I think the Cub Scout knife has been upgraded a little bit, though, from the looks of that.
A little bit. The Kellogg breakfast, as you know, you got to clean these up pretty good because you'll see the back of it. I'm going to show you how to do that.
Louie, because you do organic farming, do you wash these in a special way?
I do. When I'm done packing them, before I pack them, I should say, I got my work table back there. I have 3 5-gallon stainless steel buckets that all have tap water in it. But the first one, I put a tablespoon of the white vinegar, distilled white vinegar. Not a lot. What it does, it just takes the summer elements. It's been out here all summer. It cleans them really
Summer
nice.
elements, I love that description.
Well, you know, the
I know.
storms or whatever. And so it cleans them good. And then I rinse them twice, and I set them out to dry before I weigh them. But by the time, the chefs always wash them again. But when I deliver my tomatoes, I want them to be spotless and clean, right to the T. That's pretty much it.
Look inside. Now,
look
to
at the
me,
side. Look at
this tomato would not have looked like it was ripe enough to pick, but it's absolutely gorgeous inside. It's
You know, and
moist and
If you blend it up, it looks like orange juice. You know,
Okay.
and the antioxidants in all these tomatoes are such great things for
actually,
yourself.
I feel like when there's a glut of tomatoes, it's the best time of year, or the best thing to do to can them. I mean, I normally don't like to take a lot of time to do canning, but with the tomatoes, it's absolutely worth it. And
See-
last year, what started me in that direction is last year Louie brought me some of these yellow tomatoes, and I made some chilled summer soup out of them with just the juice, and it was really awesome.
And you made me so proud by putting me in your cookbook with this Kellogg breakfast.
Well,
Thank
this
you for
gorgeous
that.
tomato. Okay, can we see the rainbow also?
Yeah, let's take a look at the rainbow so you can see them.
I can just now imagine a traditional caprese salad with just slices of these beautiful tomatoes, and see the color inside the.
And within the
The
next
rainbow
week, when the
there?
big harvest comes in, it's going to be a lot more colorful. But right now, this is ready to go, and it's delicious. What can I say?
Yeah, and you know you can ripen your tomatoes if you get some that are a little bit too green. If you put them in a paper bag, then when it releases its gases, it'll stay contained by the tomato and help it to ripen faster.
In a cool, dry place.
In a cool, dry place,
Yes.
exactly right. You don't want to set them in the sun, which is a common misnomer, right?
Well, it's a good thing when it's green because my dad does it, and I'd say 80% of them come back to a good harvest. I mean, as far as a good tomato. But the way what you just mentioned with the bag is very well known to do it that way.
Okay. I'm seeing these wonderful zucchini squash blossoms sitting here on the table, and you know, this is not something you can get very easily because they cost a lot. For example, about $1 a piece in a grocery store.
Yeah, probably.
And they're just beautiful, and you can also do something fun with these with the caprese tomatoes because the tomatoes are so flavorful. Just stuff this with some kind of a cheese. You could even just take a piece of this
Sure.
mozzarella and put it in there and stuff a little wedge of tomato inside, and then fold this up, even when they're fuller and bigger like that. Fold it up and kind of twist it and put that underneath, and then just bake it in the oven for about 10 minutes at maybe 350, and you've got a really fun appetizer. You could do that with any of these kinds of tomatoes. If you're picking squash blossoms, which I noticed Louie has some squash growing on the side there, is that for any particular
Well,
reason?
the family likes
does
it.
it help
and,
the tomatoes? Keep the
Well,
tomatoes company?
it keeps it company. They're good friends. They get along.
Okay, so be careful if you have your zucchini plants that you pick only the male blossoms because they need to pollinate the female blossoms.
Right.
So here's how you tell the difference. The male blossom is on a long stalk. The female blossom has a little fruit at the bottom. And if you pick the male blossoms before the female is pollinated, the fruit will just shrivel up and die.
Yes.
Kind of like people, huh?
Pretty much. Pretty much.
We need our partners. Okay, anything else either one of you would like to say about the salads? What is this?
That's a balsamic vinaigrette. When we're all done taking the shoot, we're gonna get some plates out here. I'm gonna pour it on the salad so you could all take a taste of it. And I'm open for constructive criticism, so an honest answer would be good.
I'm sure these salads are going to be absolutely gorgeous and wonderful. Steve?
I think, you know, just the presentation would be beautiful. I mean, I could set this nice presentation up, fan them all nice, like nice Chateaubriand from the restaurant.
Sure.
Did you
And
bring your
just-
Chateaubriand today?
No, not today.
No,
But there'll be
okay,
another
shoot.
time we can do it. We can do it. But just the presentation alone would be phenomenal, and just the taste would be.
Well, and he's not
All
a tomato
original.
lover. He doesn't like tomatoes.
I was
Really?
never
You're
a big.
kidding.
I was never big. You know, I'm more of a tomato sauce. You know, I like it in more of a sauce. But when I've tried his tomatoes, just like this, I couldn't get it.
They're
Now he
awesome.
wants me to put a tomato stand in front of his place.
I do, and,
Well,
and
you
we're
should
gonna
think
we're
about
gonna
that.
have
I'm
one.
thinking
We're
about
gonna
it.
have one.
Is there any way that people in the area can enjoy your tomatoes besides going to Lely's? I know we want them to go to Lely's.
Well, absolutely.
I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Okay, so they're
We'll
not
see
for
what happens.
sale right now to the general
Well,
public,
no, but
unless
like
you
I
know
said,
where we are.
we're going to put a stand out possibly in
And
front.
keep
so
it a
when
reasonable
people
price
leave,
for them.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, I think you've got some absolutely gorgeous tomatoes, as I've been saying all day.
Thanks a
I'm
lot.
really happy that we were able to showcase them today, and I'm looking forward to taking some home and cooking with them. And I think we're about finished. Thanks for coming today. I appreciate it a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
From
Thanks a lot
Livonia,
for having me. I
Michigan.
really appreciate it.
Reporting from Livonia, Michigan, I'm Chef Lynn. Enjoy.